What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. Always, I like to say, you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. I am the host of Epic Conversations, and the Dr. Vibe show is a place for epic conversations. I'm a certified empowerment coach, president and CEO of Express Your Vibe Coaching and Communications, and I am jacked. We finally got this conversation to start after some trial and tribulation. Lots of fun. And it's always nice to have new friends come on the Dr. Vibe show. Now, one of the people that's with us tonight, I wouldn't consider her a new friend because she's been quite the supporter, especially on Wednesday nights with the Black Lady Magic conversations. And she's a very good friend of one of the pair of ladies who make Black Lady Magic at 9 p.m. on Wednesday evenings very, very special. She's a very special friend of Leah Miller. And we have Serena Wills on the line. How are you, Serena?
Yes, I am here.
Yes, you are. You are here after lots of fun.
Yes.
And it's funny. She's been such a great supporter. And I said, and then Leah said, you need to get Serena on your show. I said, all right. Black Lady Magic speaks, Black Men actions. All right. So we have her here tonight. And over the last few weeks, we've been having conversations about different topics she'd like to share about on the platform. Then she said, I have someone you need to have on with me. I said, okay. So I have Tara Lessard from Philadelphia. By the way, Philadelphia is, as I told Tara, it's something about Dr. Vibe show in Philadelphia. There have been more people who have been on this show from Philadelphia, either living there or born there, than any other city in the world. Even Toronto, where I host this.
Wow.
So there's something special, Magic Philadelphia in the air. We have both of them on the conversation tonight. We're going to eventually get to share about ovarian cancer, which is a very, very, very important thing to share about. But first, we're going to give some time for each one of them to share a little bit about themselves with you. So, Serena, welcome, and share a little bit about yourself with our wonderful audience.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure being here. I totally appreciate it. I am a published author. I have 2 poetry books out. My first one came out 4 years ago, Reconstruction Pieces of Life, Volume 1. And my most recent one is Crying Tears of Teal. That's the color teal that represents ovarian cancer awareness. That came out September of last year. I'm also a certified health and wellness coach. Just received my master's from Maryland University of Integrative Health. Just this month, I finished my classes.
Booyah!
Congrats! I am done. So look out for that. And I am an advocate for both ovarian cancer and Lyme disease and just gynecological cancers overall. And that's just a snippet about me.
Yes, we will have a conversation where we have both these ladies by themselves on the Dr. Vibe show because their story is outstanding, amazing. Tonight, though, we're both of them going to chat about ovarian cancer. Ovarian cancer is the star, if you want to put it, of the conversation tonight. But let's turn it over to Ms. T. Share a bit about yourself.
My name is Tara Lessard. I was actually born in Jamaica, New York. So and I was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer in 2015. My only symptom that I had was basically just acid reflux and a little bit of swelling. And here it was that I was diagnosed with stage 4. So I'm happy to say after 27 chemotherapies and 5 surgeries, I've been cancer-free since last year in October. So that's very exciting.
That is wonderful. And we were a little delayed in our start tonight, but there are already people coming onto the conversation via the YouTube channel. So we thank you for your patience, your understanding. It's appreciated.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's appreciated and not taken for granted. If you have any questions or comments, please share them, and I will have both our friends respond to them. Let's get right into it. Ovarian cancer. what does our audience need to know about ovarian cancer? Let's get it up first, and then we'll get your own personal experiences. But I think, what do the audience need to know about it? So you two can just, your friends, I know, just hang out. This is a conversation. This is a conversation, not an interview. So who wants to jump in first?
Please, go ahead. You can start if you want.
Okay. Well, one thing is for sure, ovarian cancer affects all women. So it does not discriminate. There are women as young as their early 20s now getting diagnosed with ovarian cancer. It used to be typically, and it still is, women who are in their menopausal age of life, but more younger women are getting diagnosed with this cancer. And it is what they call, it's very silent. The symptoms are very vague, as Tara was saying. You know, you can just have bloating. Your menstrual cramps could be a little stronger than usual. Just feeling tired, fatigued, just constipation. It's not symptoms that are out the park. For example, it's if you have a cold or you don't feel well, it can mask itself as that. The symptoms are that almost simplistic until it really hits you. And like Tara was saying, a lot of women are diagnosed, unfortunately, in stage 4 by the time they are diagnosed. And that's a good 70 to 80% of the women who are diagnosed are already in stage 4. So that's just a few things to know. And, you know, there are more women living longer. The treatments are getting better, thank goodness, compared to when my mom passed away just 8.5 years ago. And her battle was only 6 months from diagnosis to the time she passed away.
Well, our condolences on the passing away of your mother.
Yeah.
You had shared that to me in an initial conversation, said, you know what, are you comfortable sharing about that experience with us tonight? And I know you'll share some of that with us. But Tara, what are some things that the public, ladies and gentlemen, need to know about ovarian cancer?
One thing I would say is that I had no history of cancer in my family at all. And when I was halfway through treatment, we did a genetic test. I'm actually the BRCA1 gene, BRCA1 positive. And when you have certain genetic predispositions, that will also manifest as cancer. So in my case, no one manifested with breast cancer or any other cancers in my family. It was a complete surprise to me when I was diagnosed for that reason. But if you do have a history of breast cancer in your family, specifically mom or siblings or grandparents, then you might want to get checked just for your genetic testing. And that is just a precursor to the possibility of developing cancer. So if you do have a BRCA gene, it's not a diagnosis in and of itself that requires any, surgeries or anything like that necessarily. What they'll do is just monitor you more closely. And had I known that before, I would have been on the grid, as they say. And that would have maybe been able to catch things sooner, just because they would continue with doing mammograms and blood work and things of that nature to check in advance. So although it is a silent killer, I know that for me, I knew something was wrong and I didn't exactly know what. And as a patient now, I really try to help advocate for women to advocate for themselves. And if they're having problems, gynecologically, sometimes it may feel like doctors sort of pass you off or don't take your symptoms, as seriously as you might think that they are. And if that's the case, be really either intentional around having a really serious discussion with them, or, try and find someone else within your network or go out of the network to another doctor or hospital until you find an answer when you feel like there's something going on.
Excellent. Want to get some of your own personal stories in regards to this disease. Serena, I know it's not easy, but cycle back to when you found out that your mother had this disease. What was the initial reaction? How did you handle it? It was for 6 months, but how did you handle it emotionally, especially, as not only yourself but your family?
Yeah, it was really tough. That January, it was 2009, I started talking to my mom on the phone. I used to live in Texas at that time, and she was in New York. And she said she wasn't feeling herself. She knew she was going through menopause, but she would always use the term that I think what I'm going through is a little deeper than menopause, Serena, and I want you to come, or at least come back to the East Coast because I don't want to go to the doctor without you. So I actually moved back that July. And when I saw her 2 weeks later after I moved back, she could barely move. She was very fatigued, bloated. She would eat a couple of spoonfuls of soup and be full. And I said, no, this is not menopause. Menopause does not do all of this to you. So about 2 weeks later, she ended up in the emergency room, Jamaica Hospital in Jamaica, New York. The first doctor wrote her off and said, I think you just have constipation and gas, and gave her some Imodium AD and sent her home. That was the first diagnosis.
Wow.
And she came home very upset. She took the Imodium, but she said, no, this is not helping. A few days later, went back to the same hospital. She walked herself into the emergency room, and this time she saw the head of emergency, and he asked her, who did she see the last time? And he was actually there on the floor, and she pointed him out. And the doctor said, did you get a CAT scan or ultrasound, anything? And she says, no, he just gave me Imodium AD and sent me home. And this time around, they did everything, the ultrasounds, the CAT scans, and sure enough, she saw all the tumors in her ovaries, and it had then spread to her stomach. And they did the blood work. Her CA-125 level, which me and Tara will talk about later, normally should be around 30, 35. Hers was, I think it was between 600 and 700.
Wow.
It was really above normal. And she she stayed for a few days. I still didn't know her diagnosis. She called me that day. I rushed home to New York. I lived in Virginia by then. And when I came home, she asked me to come to the hospital. And at this time, my grandmother, who's still living, God bless her heart, she's 94 years old. She said, whatever I'm about to tell you, you can't tell your grandmother. And I just remember sitting on the edge of her bed, and she told me that she had stage 4 ovarian cancer. It was in her stomach, and the reason why her legs were weak and she couldn't breathe is because the fluid that the tumors and the cells expunge were all over her body. And they actually had to expunge the fluid through a needle and go right into her lungs to take the fluid out because she couldn't breathe. Otherwise, she would have probably died because she would have died from the fluid that was in her lungs. So from that point on, my mom said, I'm going to fight this the best way I know how. And she did 2 rounds of chemo. It didn't work well. She did the chemo drugs. It didn't work well. And by that time, it was around November, December, she decided to stop all treatment. She never came back home. She was always in the hospital or a nursing home for 6 months before she passed. Mm. But they initially wrote her off for gas and constipation.
But she knew that was wrong.
She knew that was wrong, and she said, I didn't want to catch a case in the hospital, so I left. And like Tara said, she went back and got a second opinion. And she did say the head of the emergency room went over and talked to the doctor that initially diagnosed my mom, and that was the last time you ever saw him again in the hospital. So that just kind of tells you what happened to him. Wow. But yeah, for 6 months, there was no in and out the hospital and nursing homes. I mean, she didn't come home. She was just between hospitals and nursing homes for 6 full months. So that's half a year. And then she passed away February 19th, 2010. So almost 6 months to the date of her being admitted.
Well, again, condolences to you and your family. And I'd like to say thank you for sharing the story of strength and power and speaking to power. It's appreciated, and I know she's very proud of you, and you're carrying on her legacy as much as you possibly can.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. Tara, you're in the battle.
Yeah.
So
I'm still in it. I am still in active treatment, actually. So yeah, I mean, just my story is really that I came from a chiropractic background. So when you talk about medical intervention, there was none up until I got diagnosed. I had my first Tylenol treatment when I was in my late 20s, and never really used any sort of medicine whatsoever. So when I was diagnosed, I was at a local hospital, and they did do a CAT scan and said, tomorrow we need to have your family here at noon. And I honestly just thought I needed a colonoscopy or something, because that's how I was feeling. And when they gave us the diagnosis, they said, we can't do anything for you here, and you need to leave and get treatment. So I did go to one hospital that was in Pennsylvania, and I didn't like the doctor, what they had to say there. So I did advocate for myself then, with the help of my family and my then partner. And we ended up treating at a hospital in New Jersey. And what I can say about that is that chemotherapy is no joke. Taxol and the effects of that with carboplatin rendered me in a wheelchair for 8 months, besides losing my hair and having a ton of really horrifying side effects. But what I can say about that period is that it was really difficult, and a lot of my family, a lot of my friends came together and really tried to do their best to help out with, whether it be food prep, or I didn't drive, so driving, and things of that nature. It's really difficult for caregivers. And so, Serena, I totally hear, your words, and I'm just grateful to have you and your testimony tonight with that. When I was complete with my chemo, and after the surgeries, I was cancer-free in May of 2016, and I was re-diagnosed in January of 2017 with spleen cancer. Oh. And with stage 4 ovarian cancer, when I was initially diagnosed, you were saying about the CA-125, that's a cancer antigen number, and mine was over 2,200. So I hear you on that one. What I can say then is I went back to the hospital I had been treating, and afterwards they had just said to me we were going to wait and see. And basically they gave me 2 years to live, and they said, we're going to redo what we did before. And I said, so 21 chemotherapies that got me less than 6 months cancer-free with all these side effects and being in a wheelchair, I don't accept that at all. I don't want that. And so I did go to 3 other nationally known hospitals to have all of them say that's standard of care and that's normal protocol. So that's what we would do too. And cancer that I ended up going to is cancer treatment centers in Atlanta. And they were the ones that basically said to me, we will absolutely do surgery. We'll remove any evidence of disease. You will have 6 more chemotherapies, but it'll be a completely different type. And then not only that, 3 days previous to me having been there, there is a drug called Zejula, which is an oral chemotherapy. And they said, once you're done and you're cancer-free with the active chemo, we're going to put you on this medicine. And I've been on that since October. And it does have side effects that are extremely similar to regular chemotherapy. But it is supposed to help control with people who have had brachygene and carboplatin, chemotherapy, the viral load, essentially, the cancer antigen number, in addition to the presence of active disease. So what that looks like now is that every month I get blood tested. Every 3 months I go back for repeat CT scans and such. And just to be completely honest, more recently, within the last few weeks, my numbers have been up. They're over 300 at this moment, and they might have found something going on with me. So I'm still in it as far as researching active treatment. There's 3 more medicines I'm eligible for, and thank God the NOCC conference that we had gone to together in New York is amazing how many things are happening now with ovarian cancer treatment. And I'm glad to say that there's just a wealth of knowledge and information and medicine that's available. So I don't live in anxiety or fear. I feel between the trials that are happening now and the chemotherapy type medicines, in addition to some really beautiful new procedures and stuff, that we're in a golden age of ovarian cancer treatment, I kind of feel. So
yeah,
That's fantastic. And again, we're glad you're from Philadelphia, because I know Philadelphia people have special fights.
oh
Yeah, exactly. Go Eagles, right? Go Eagles.
my goodness, go Eagles! Yes.
Excellent. Like to thank everybody who's watching. Yeah, I love everyone who's watching live via YouTube. A lot of people are watching live right now. And again, if you have questions or comments, please feel free to share. J Street 640 is typed out here, #strength. And it's something I want to delve into now. Serena first, and then Tara, where did your family get the strength from those 6 months, and where are you getting the strength to continue on with the loss or after the loss?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Like I told you, my grandmother's still alive. So she's 94. My mother was her third child. She had already lost. And the strength my grandmother has,
Wow.
it's just, I tell people, I feel like I get my strength from my grandmother and my mother and my family, because to bury 3 of your daughters, and you're still alive. My grandmother says she almost felt guilty still being here. Here she is living a long life. Her first 2 daughters, they were foster daughters. They died in their 20s. And then my mom was her eldest daughter, and my mom died at 60. We just really pulled together. Everybody took it differently. I know I was shocked. My mother and I were actually planning for a cruise. So we were planning for her 60th and my 35th birthday cruise at the time, when I'm sitting there on the edge of her bed and she's telling me how she wants to be put away and, cremate her and spread her ashes. I said, what are you talking about? We're supposed to be going on this cruise in January. And she kept telling me, you have to listen to me. And I'm my mom's eldest, and I'm her only biological daughter.
Wow.
And we had already lost one of my sisters 2.5 years prior to my mom dying. So we've had a lot of deaths in my family. And I tell you, my strength comes from, I don't know, who's out there, but I'm a Christian. I pray. I had a lot of prayer warriors praying for me. My church home, Ebenezer AME of Fort Washington, Maryland, shout out to them. And just people all over the country, my friends from Texas, were just really praying for us and praying for my mother. And there were a couple of people in denial, and I think that's the first stage, sometimes of grief, is denial and shock. And especially for my grandmother, she was torn apart, and she says, we're going to get through this together as a family the best way we know how. And my mom, I tell people the one thing I loved about my mother is, she was a very prayerful woman, but she was also very funny. She had a very wonderful sense of humor, even as her doctors called it, bedside humor from Marguerite Wills. She always had everybody cracking up. She would, I would come in to visit her, and she would ask me, how does my hair and eyebrows look today? She already lost all her hair, and her eyebrows were halfway gone, but she would always ask me, does my hair look okay today? And, so she, after a while, we just, not to say we stopped talking about the cancer, but she wanted to know about what life was like outside the hospital, outside the nursing home. And we just really, we bonded. We were already closer, but we became closer, just over time. And I will say, when my mom was, when she was dying, it was the week of the blizzards. I don't know if anybody remembers winter 2010. We had feet and feet of snow. Took me about 7 hours on Amtrak to get to my mother. And our last conversation before I got to her, thank God she held on for me, was, okay, Mom, I'm hearing some news from the doctors. I'm on my way. You got to hold on. And she says, all right, I'm here holding. I won't even hang up the phone. I'll just hold on until you get here.
That's sweet.
I was like, well, okay, you can hang up the phone if you want, but that was February 18th, and I got to her February 19th, and we spent the whole afternoon together, and we already knew that the end was near, so we just talked about life and, what was in store for me. She wanted me to be secure of my future. She wanted to make sure my sister Christina, who will be 29 this year, was going to be taken care of, my grandmother, and the whole family. She was more worried about the family than herself at this point. And, I was actually with her when she took her last breath. And
Wow.
I'm surprised I didn't pass out in that room. And thank goodness for my cousin Fern, who was with me. But I had to become calm. I totally believe that if you are screaming, hollering, your loved one can still hear you, even though they're transitioning. So I had to actually tell my mother, it's okay for you to let go. We're going to be okay. And that was one of the hardest things I've had to say in my life, was to tell my best friend, my mother, that it's okay to go. Because I didn't want to be selfish and keep her here. And she's human. And then throughout this time, I was in counseling, support groups, you name it. Support groups for me very helpful. So it really helped me along. My aunt Hilda, she would call prayer lines. Everybody had their own way of getting through this. And we just talked a whole lot as a family. And it made us grow closer after my mom passed away. And here we are 8+ years later. And there are still, I grieve, not all the time, but I pull on great memories that my mom had. We had a lot of wonderful times, a lot of funny, comedic times, as I was telling you. But, I tell people it's okay to cry. It's okay to shout. You don't have to be macho and try to hold it all in. But, just really, however you have to let it out, as long as it's positive and healing, then do it.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And one thing I would share is my father's older and getting up there in age. One thing I will say to him is that the greatest thing he's doing right now, that he's old enough to tell his story. So I'm sure that your grandmother is in the same way, that she's old enough to tell her story. So that's powerful. Very, very powerful. Tara, how do you keep on going other than just living in Philadelphia? What's the hot sauce? What's the hot sauce?
Old age is not gifted to everybody, and now at the age of 45, I could definitely say that with all certainty, it's a gift. One campaign I know that is very popular right now is the whole F cancer campaign. And what I can say first off is that that's never something that resonated with me, because cancer was literally inside my body. So when I would have people come to my house when I was originally diagnosed and all through my treatment, literally the laying on of hands to put love in the areas that were afflicted with cancer was so important, because the visualization of having cells that are now replacing the ones that are dying because of the chemotherapy being healthier was a visualization that really did help. When I say my family came together, my mom absolutely is caretaker. My dad had to hold down the business. You saying about prayer warrior, absolutely. Really faith community. My brother and sister both, were, and again, my partner. And I think love really kept it moving forward. I don't know that I ever considered the end as an option. And I remember when I was sort of being grateful that it was me, because I knew if anybody in my family, I was super positive and I was going to be the one that would beat this with their help. And I can definitely say that my life coach was amazing as well, just because she kept me really intentional on only feeding myself good food, using food as medicine. I had a care management team that included a dietitian that included Reiki and massage, besides the fact that my family and my partner, would create all these amazing meals. I also had friends that would deliver them. So it was a constant, really resource of people that kind of swooped in and just did the thing. So whether, you identify things that are normal, like laundry or, cooking or vacuuming, I don't know. And if, someone felt really overburdened, it was beautiful to be able to have someone just come and sit, someone to do the laundry, you know what I mean? Things like that. And that's one thing that I can say, everyone does sort of lean in on the person who's in treatment, but it affects a huge scale of people. And I know that my community in Philadelphia, I do a lot of photography for the LGBT community, in addition to the MMA and boxing community. And I just had so many different people that would come forward, and community members that came forward with such support. And I can't say how it was so valuable. It just was so valuable. And just to be able to have that lifeline that if you ever feel like you're alone, reaching out, and being able to have someone on the other end that would pray with you, or they would sing to me when I couldn't speak. For a while I had a tube up my nose. I wasn't able to eat for 2 months. I was in the hospital for 2.5 months in Atlanta, which kind of left my whole family out on the sidelines, and my mom was with me and my sister for a while. So it's intense, and taking care of the caretaker is really vital part of what that looks like, and not just the person that's, in treatment. It does affect everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Well, there are some comments. I wanted to hold them off until you ladies had a chance to share your story. So, Serena, guess who just sent a message a few minutes ago? Take a guess.
Hey, Leah, what's
yes,
up?
Yes. Leah World Traveler, who's on this platform most Wednesday evenings with Dr. Tachi, she's saying, "Hey ladies, I am watching and avidly listening but can't interact or send a comment. I appreciate both of your testimonies. Wish Tara continued strength in kicking ass and miss and he says, and Miss Mama Sati."
Yeah. Salty. Yeah, that's my husband's name.
All right, and that's on the Twitter end, and then on YouTube, Queen. There's a lady, the Queen Within. Tara, I love you so much. You are an incredible fighter. We're not giving up. You fight, we fight.
That's right.
And gentleman here, Brett. You are both incredibly inspiring. Sometimes I find it challenging to find strength in times of trial. From where you derive your strength, you've answered. I was going to say, Brett, they've just shared where they derive their strength from. So they've answered those questions. I know we've been very intense and heavy, so I'm going to lighten it up a bit. How did you two meet? How did you two meet?
Oh, how did we meet?
We love food. That's kind of what it comes down to. No.
Yes, me and Tara love food, and it's funny. I feel like I've known Tara my whole life, and we just met in April of this year. We met at the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition Conference, and I was there vending. I was selling my books. I was there talking to other caregivers, and Tara came over my table and had some awesome food. I mean, Lord knows I was starving.
Now that I can eat, I am eating every second of every day. No,
it's just one of those things where you meet and just connect, and we just connected so well. And I told her about my, personal health battle and how I had to be very cautious of what I had to eat. So the fact that she had food that I could eat and didn't have to worry about, there's gluten in there, dairy, it was so good. And it was, then we went to the food truck afterwards, and we've just been, cool ever since. She's just a blessing in disguise. I mean, she lives in the city where my cousin goes to college. It's just, she's from Jamaica, New York. I'm like, I'm from Jamaica, New York. I mean, it's just
one of those things.
It's beautiful, yeah. I love about the fact that we both have really beautiful give backs. Like, we've sort of walked through the fire and we have the tales to tell, but it's beautiful being able to empower other women and families with our story and be able to say, like, it's possible to live a good, life through trials and, with faith and with support from other people, and together, sort of grabbing each other's hand when we are sort of stumbling and just try to help each other,
Yeah.
Excellent. So what was that first piece of food that you brought to Serena that day? I want to know, man. What did you bring her that just made it?
Plantains, and we did. What did we have? I don't even. It was delicious.
It was the cocoa balls, the chocolate.
That was the meal afterwards. Yeah, so I do something called fat bombs because I can't eat sugar.
Yes.
So it's coconut oil and coconut manna. It's 90% dark chocolate, almond butter with no sugar, and you kind of mix all of those things up in a pan, and it sort of heats up to a liquid, and you pour it into like a cupcake tray. And because of the chocolate powder and the nuts, and then the coconut oil.
Tara, you can stop right. You can stop right there. I'll take it. You don't even have to finish. That's good. All right.
You see how we bonded? I mean, I'm like, this girl just walked over and just said, "Hey, you want to try some?" I'm like, "What's in it?" She was like, "Oh, it's totally gluten-free, dairy-free, this free." I'm like, "Oh, I can eat it." It was the pick-me-up I needed after being there for like hours.
That's awesome. I totally, because I remember the meal we had afterwards, but you're right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had the food afterwards at the food truck. Yeah.
So you two meet each other, you have a food frenzy.
Yeah.
How is this friendship continued on? Because you're in two different cities, but it sounds like the bond is stronger than ever.
Yeah. Tara bought my book. Thank you for supporting me. And
I cried my eyes out, and I loved it.
Yeah, you were like, "I love the cover. I love the colors. Tell me about your book." And we just bonded over the book, and then. We promised to keep in touch. And I remember soon as I got back to Virginia, I text messaged Tara, and I was like, "It was so great to meet you, and it was such a pleasure." And other women I met too at the conference, we have just stayed in touch throughout the months, and it's not even a second thought. It's just, let me contact you. So when you invited me to the show, the first person I thought about was, I have to get Tara on the show. She is a survivor. She is a warrior. She's beating this cancer down to the pulp, and she has to be on the show with me.
Right. So before we go on, Serena, can you move a little bit to your right a bit so we can get you more into... Yeah, that's beautiful. Right there. Thank you.
My right, your left. Okay.
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay.
How has the treatment advanced over the years for ovarian cancer? How has it got better? Or has it got better? Because I see Tara's going, how has it got better?
I mean, I think, first of all, the diagnostic tools that they use are definitely more specific. And when you're talking about CT scans with contrast, that's definitely a definitive way to be able to diagnose what's happening, because you see clearly where the masses are located. The CA-125 is that cancer antigen number. So that test has been, it's not always the best method to detect disease. So I just actually attended a meeting about a couple weeks ago, because some people, get really frantic over the biggest changes, but it's not necessarily the best diagnostic tool. But, just besides the chemotherapies that are available, there are so many other there's other methods of treatment now. So between like I said, with the Zejula is just the one that I have for oral chemo, but there are a number of medicines that will help and target, in addition to a whole series of different chemotherapies. And usually it's usually diagnosis and then the possibility of some sort of get the tumor smaller before they go in for a debulking surgery. And then just, after you're done with the chemo, now there's actually a maintenance program where there never used to be before.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add, Serena?
Yeah, and definitely the one thing I've noticed throughout the years is integrative health is all over ovarian and GYN cancers like never before. There are so many women just being healed after, like Tara was talking about, maintenance. And I've met actually women who are going through their cancer treatment. They're doing the chemo and things of that nature, but they're also seeing integrative health doctors. They're, completely overhauling their diets, doing a variety of IV treatments like vitamin IV infusions, peroxide infusions, which clean your blood, massage therapy, Reiki, acupressure. It's just so much. And really, a lot of women, and I mean, we love to take on way too much stress than we should. And I've seen women just completely cut stress off, kick it to the curb, because their goal is to survive. And stress can just manifest so differently, and it can really increase your symptoms with cancer and any illness. But the fact that doctors are going at this, not just, oh, take chemo or nothing, take this drug or nothing. There's so many other options. And if you have a doctor like that, I say just tell them to kick rocks and keep moving and go see another doctor, because there's so much out there now for women. Because for Tara to be stage 4 and say, oh, you have 2 years to live, and look at her. I mean, rocking and roll.
Food as medicine is no joke, and the fact that the chemotherapy treatment kills, and it kills the good cells, it kills the bad cells, so you need to be able to replace all of those things that are leaving you, and understand that the way the body works is that your cell structures replace themselves. It might be longer for, say, liver cells, but skin cells replace really quick, and whatever cell is going to replace it, you want to be healthier than the one that just left. And you can make that difference and change by what you feed yourself. So whether, it's good quality foods, or it's less slow-cooked foods rather than fast foods, and a number of different vitamins, I mean, that's going to help the cells that replace it to be healthier, and you'll actually feel better, too.
What are some of the root causes of ovarian cancer?
I know that research shows, they always say that research studies show, it really, like I was telling you before, it does not discriminate. You could be a completely healthy woman, ate right your whole life, never smoked a cigarette, never drank, not overweight, and still get ovarian cancer. It's really, I just met a young lady who has an organization called Teal 45, because she was actually diagnosed with ovarian cancer in her late 20s. Totally healthy.
Wow.
And was pregnant with her first child. And that's how they actually figured out she had ovarian cancer, was during her pregnancy.
Oh, my goodness.
They delivered her son, and I met her at the Ovarian Cancer Break the Silence race out here in the D.C. area in May. And now she's cancer-free. She's doing her maintenance. Nice. But she was stage 4. Here she was carrying a child and didn't know she had ovarian cancer. So there's nothing you can do wrong. I mean, you can do everything right and still get it. Wow. And then, like Tara said, there's now the gene factors. So I'm considered high risk. So because my mom had ovarian cancer. Okay. So now I have to get every year. They don't have an accurate test. Pap tests and pap smears do not detect ovarian cancer. Let's just put that out there right now. Yep. They can detect cervical cancer, but not ovarian, because your ovaries are so deep in your cavity that you can't see them, in a pap test. So I have to actually get transvaginal ultrasounds every year, and I get my CA 125, and there's another CA test I get done every year. And it's the only real way they can monitor me. And I'm still waiting, actually, and I'll talk about this a little later. I actually got genetic testing done through the Magenta study, which is out of the University of Texas. And I'm waiting for my results to come back to see if the genes, the BRCA1 and 2, if they're positive or negative. Wow. But right now, there's no accurate test for ovarian cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Tara, I see you doing a lot of shaking of your head. That means you want to share or add on to what's being said, so please do.
No, I think it's fantastic that you're on the grid that way as far as your genetic testing, just because, that used to be sort of a death sentence with the BRCA gene, even because it makes you 80% more susceptible to things like breast cancer, skin cancer. I think it's prostate, which won't affect us, but actually breast cancer does affect men. So they're not, out of the loop of having that happen as well. And like you're saying, the prevention is that every, 3 to 6 months, you're going back for some sort of a screening, and then they can be on top of it and not have it be 4th stage, The Clarity Foundation in California has been amazing with sequencing tumors. And if there are women that do have ovarian cancer, that is a phenomenal resource because they keep you on a database that is consistently updating itself. So as new medicines are coming out, new trials are coming out, they have you covered because they know exactly what's happening with your tumors. And therefore, if you have dropouts or modifications or, extra things that are in there, they can actually say to you, this is brand new. And since this is going on with you, why don't you try this or talk to your doctor about this or whatever. So, and trials aren't as scary as they used to be either. So it's really good to know what's available in your area, for things like that. So.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Another comment here from Leah. As she goes, if only food could cure all, it certainly does wonders for my spirit. And as she said earlier, Tara, keep fighting and know we support you completely. And I miss Mama Sati.
Yeah.
So
Sati was my mom's African name. It was given to her during the liberation movement back in the 60s. It means voice in Swahili. And she was one of those still waters run deep type person. So I tell people she may seem quiet on the surface, but she was out there, with feeding the kids through the free lunch programs and at the rallies and cut her perm out, grew her hair natural. And she African danced for many years. She did that professionally. And so you could tell how you met my mom depending on how you call her first. If you call her Mark first or Sawati, I could tell what era you met my mom in.
Greetings.
It's a beautiful legacy.
The legacy, yes.
All right. Tara, I'm going to have you address this first. Treatment can't be cheap.
So, yeah, it really can't be. I did not have the best insurance when I was diagnosed, and I ended up with fairly hefty bills. And what I can say is the kindness of others did help to offset that. Friends in the community, family members in my office, chiropractically, all did these, fundraisers to help me with some of the co-payments. Eventually, when I did get re-diagnosed in January, I became disabled, so I do have disability that does help. And what I can say is that if that is something that affects you, it is worth going through the channels to apply, because there are many things that can happen. Just everything is very delicately balanced. So whether it's, your living conditions, your medicine is not cheap, your good food is not cheap, the fact that you need to now pay somebody who needs to bring you places, so it behooves you to be wonderful and kind to everybody because you never know when they're going to be your next savior, first of all, And I've had many people that have helped me. This is a coat of many colors, and it is not me who has brought me to this place. I have an entire fleet of amazing people that are standing with me right now. So, the help from others is amazing. If you feel that it's really difficult, I did make application for financial aid programs through the hospital I was treating. And now with the prescription that I have, it's a close to $20,000 a month drug. And I was looking at a copayment of around $9,000 a month. Needless to say, I don't make a teeny percentage of that a month anymore. So a lot of the drug programs do have contingency plans where they are able to offer drugs at lower cost, which thank God is my case. So I participate in this program. I speak with them on a monthly basis. Since it's a fairly new drug, I talk to the FDA on a monthly basis to talk about my experience and what's happening with, reporting back with my stuff. So in advocacy, I think that can get you a lot more places than anger. So I feel like that's been bridging the gap for me with different situations to just say, now that I have the ability to give back, can I do something to help you since you're helping me? And that's kind of been where my peace has been, and the beauty of being able to do that. So yeah,
Okay.
hopefully that helps.
Serena, you had mentioned earlier on in our conversation that younger and younger women are being diagnosed with this disease. My question for both of you, or my conversation piece for both of you, is: are you seeing women who do not have ovarian cancer ask about ovarian cancer, and are you seeing more women being more in the preventative mode?
Yes. Do you want to spike? Yeah, I mean, for me, definitely. I feel like I volunteer with cancer support community locally, cancer treatment centers for sure. I'm in Philadelphia. I was just there earlier. And because of that, it's sort of become a love language now that I have in common with people. And I think just not only ovarian cancer, but in general, just the openness that I have in my personality is, if you have some concerns, like, talk to me about them. I've actually accompanied some of my friends to breast screenings just because they were anxiety ridden. And that's a thing that, can really just literally be helped by replacing, fear with information. And I think once that happens, you definitely have the ability to maneuver through choices. And if you let things go, and then clearly don't find out until you're stage 4, your choices are limited. But in the midst of living a normal, healthy life, there's a world, being your oyster, you can do what you like to do. And I think prevention is definitely where I stand firmly now, just that you know your body and you know yourself. And when you know something's not right, you need to do something about it and be proactive.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead, Serena, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, definitely. I know when I go out to my book signings, I tell people I consider myself a triple threat. Like, I'm a health and wellness coach, an advocate, and an author. And every table I always have pamphlets, bookmarks, magnets, you name it, that talk about ovarian cancer, the symptoms to look out for. I call women over to the table just to talk about it, and even men, because, men need to know about this just as much as women. And I had to actually educate some men, because men didn't know until I talked to them that they can carry the gene for ovarian cancer. They can't get ovarian cancer, but it's the same genes for breast cancer.
Oh,
so
okay.
They can carry the gene, and let's say they have a child and they have a daughter, they can pass that gene to their daughter who can get ovarian cancer.
Interesting.
So, I try to educate anyone who's going to listen to me. And that was the promise I made to my mother. And just last year, I actually met a couple of women who didn't even know about ovarian cancer. It shocked me. But they didn't even know what ovarian cancer was. They've heard of GYN cancers, and they always hear about breast cancer, but not ovarian.
If I can just interrupt, do you still think, though, that's the majority, that most women still don't know about ovarian cancer?
No, that's a minority. That's why I was shocked. I was like, you don't know what ovarian cancer is? And I really took time to talk to them. And they took almost every brochure and pamphlet I had on my table, and they said they were going to go back and educate the women in their family, especially the younger ones. And the women I was talking to, they were in their latter 20s, per se, and they said, can this affect me? And I said, yes, it can. It can affect any woman. 20s, 30s, you could be in your 70s. As long as you have ovaries, you can get ovarian cancer.
Wow. Tara, you're seeing more awareness out there by women, especially on this?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I am, just because it's a topic of conversation in my circles. And I think I'm not fear-filled as I, used to be about it, just because, you walk through the fire that way, like, you come out a different person. So, I understand everyone's relationship with cancer is very much about them and their journey. And that's the advocacy part of it, is just to say that, awareness is something that you can espouse regardless of your financial situation or your familial situation. There will always be someone if you are able to reach out, that will be able to be, an ear and a coach, and to be able to listen and to hear. And to try to navigate that by yourself is really a challenge. So, we just create this coven of, people around cancer and around caregiving and around, the things that matter,
Well, as we wind down our epic conversation, I'm going to have this last conversation piece with both of you.
Okay.
If everything was right when it comes to dealing with ovarian cancer, what would you like to see happen? What would you like to see happen in order to attack this disease best practice wise?
I want to say everything is right. I mean, in my life, life is impermanent. Everything in it is impermanent. And I think this has brought me to a place of compassion for other people and myself, and the gentleness around a chronic disease that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So, I don't know that it's attack. I don't like to look at it as a fight necessarily. It's the ability to just see what is and let life show you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will, and actually, we have some questions here. So I'm going to go,
okay.
Serena, I'm going to have you first. Your girl has a question for you. She goes,
All right.
How do you deal with the grief and the pain of loss when someone loses their battle against ovarian or any cancer?
Yeah, I tell people, I'll never forget the conversation. One of the last conversations I had with my mother before she went unconscious was, you are not allowed to try and take yourself out of here. Because I told her, I can't live life without you. What am I going to do without you? And she says, you don't have a choice, because if you enter those gates, I'm going to throw you back to earth where you belong. So, I mean, I'm telling you, down to the wire, she was really, and it was truth in that. And I tell people, I find all my strength in God and my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. If it were not for my prayer life, if it were not for the gift I have in writing, I would write almost every day in my journal, my laptop. That was my therapy. And even now, I'm a writer and an author, but I love to write because it's healing, it's freedom for me, but it still serves as therapy for me. And I just find my strength. Like I said, I have a very strong grandmother who, she's talking about she's not going to die until my son graduates high school. Well, he's only 7. So,
for some reason, I don't doubt your grandma. I
don't doubt her at all. And, my great-grandfather was 103 when he died. So I look at them and I look at what they went through. I look at the losses, that my grandmother has experienced. And I'm like, if she could still stand and survive after losing 3 children, and that's 3 children that were here before. She actually had a miscarriage, so she's technically lost 4. And she's still standing. And I just look to her so often. I thank her for the strength that she's instilled in me, my aunt, my elders, and I will say, now that I'm a mother, my son really gives me a lot of joy. And I really am thankful that I feel like my mom blessed me with him not too long after she left me. It was like, okay, now I'm having a kid. What am I going to do now? But, he's really given me so much joy, and my friends as well, but you have to pull on that strength. And there's times where I still sitting here and cry my eyes out and miss my mother. I want to pick up that phone and call her. And like I said, it's okay to cry. It's okay to still grieve. Just don't be stuck in your pain. Like Tara, there's so much to life. And I want to live life to the fullest, like I promised my mom. So that's what keeps me going.
Wow. One friend asks a question of another friend, and magic happens. That's a great answer. Tara, there's a question here from Brett. He's asking you, is meditation something you practice? If so, we would like to hear your experience with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was not something that came easy to me. I'm a type A personality when I'm on.
You're kidding.
I like to make it happen. And I, in various stages of my treatment, was bedbound, where literally I couldn't walk. Like I said, I was in a wheelchair. I needed to have help going to the bathroom. I couldn't make food. I couldn't walk by myself. I couldn't bathe myself. So I really did have to become one with what was working and try to reach for the better feeling place. And in that meditation, it was difficult for me to be like vacant. Like in my head, the fact that there would be nothing was scaring the crap out of me. So I was able to do a yoga nidra meditation that really did help. And that was essentially like starting at the crown of the head. And then bit by bit, you sort of close your eyes and you name each of the parts of your body. So it would be, you know, like your right eyebrow and your right eye and your right eyelid and, you know, your right nostril and your right, you know, cheek. And you would go down each side of your body and then all the way back up again. And for me, it really put an intention around healing each of those spaces when it was really difficult or painful because of neuropathy for moving my toes. You know, just that I would be able to say my left pinky toe and then, you know, try to wiggle it. And, you know, it's just, it's definitely something now that I do on purpose, because the quiet is not something that the world affords you without work. And I hate to say that, but with social media and, you know, television and just the constant input, the necessity of you to get clear on your thoughts before you speak, before you act, you know, it's really important to just have that negative space of just nothingness, but it's full of either breath work or positive imagery or beautiful music, or, you know, I have a diffuser at home. So, you know, peppermint or lavender, you know, scent really does help with, you know, headaches and things of that nature too. So, you know, things like that, like you can fill the empty space with something. It doesn't have to be just nothingness, you know, so that's what's helped me.
Wonderful. I think this message is directed to Serena, the lady named Miss Shea the Stylist.
Oh my God, that's my sister.
Yes, and that's exactly what she said. That's my sister talking.
Yeah, yes, my sister from me and my. That's a whole other conversation about you have the same father and he has a whole lot of children.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's another
sister,
conversation.
Hey,
that's another conversation. Well, ladies, I think we will end this part of the journey right now, because I think it's been an epic conversation between both of you. Before we let you go, we would like you to any call to actions and how people can get in touch with you. So Tara, I'll let you go first.
I'm Tara Lessard on Facebook. At Freedom G Pho PHO on Instagram. I do advocacy work. I love communication. I'm part of the Cancer Fighters Network, so I literally talk to 6 to 8 women a week with late-stage cancer. But I love advocacy work. If you have someone, you know, that are interested in talking to a patient who is a positive person and believes in a friendly universe, hit me up. I'm freedomgphotography@gmail.com. Much love, and I really do appreciate you doing this show. I think it's important to kick off Ovarian Cancer September. So thank you.
September is the awareness month, and there are just a few organizations, like you said, for call to action that people can look up if they want more information, research, they want to take part. We mentioned National Ovarian Cancer Coalition, Cancer Treatment Centers of America. There's the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance, American Association for Cancer Research, TO45, the Nailed It Foundation by 2 women out of Austin who lost their mother to ovarian cancer, and they started a foundation. The Share Cancer Support Group, they're an organization out of New York City.
Amazing.
They are amazing. They do both breast and ovarian cancer, and the Gynecological Cancer Foundation is another one, and Stand Up to Cancer. That's just several.
And
there are a few out there. They really are taking us by the horns and really making people aware of ovarian and GYN cancers. But people can find me on Social media, I'm on Facebook, so it's facebook.com/Serena Wills. And my website is serenawills.com. That's SERENAWILLS.com. And I'm on Twitter under Divine Right as WRYTE, as well as YouTube. So, yeah, we have a couple of Break the Silence races coming up next month. We'd love to see people September 8th in Philly. People could sign up, look up the Delaware Valley chapter, and also Annapolis through the Central Maryland chapter. They're having a Break the Silence 5K for ovarian cancer. So feel free to come out, join us.
That's my birthday, and I'm going to get to see
Carrie's birthday. We're going to celebrate. We're going to do all kinds of things in Philly.
No, boy. Philly, watch out. Watch out, Philly.
Watch out. I'm coming. We're coming.
Yeah,
I'll bring fat bombs.
Well, I would like to thank both of you for what you have done, what you are doing, and what you will be doing going forward. Serena, all those organizations you just shared with our audience, if you could send them to me, I'd really appreciate to include them on the post, on the replay, so people know that where they can go to in the United States if these things happen. And I'll see if I can do some research Canadian-wise in regards to any resources in Canada. I'd like to say thanks to a whole lot of people. Leah World Travel, and I didn't even tell her about this, and I said, I wonder if she's going to find some time to be on. She found some time, which is absolutely wonderful. And there's actually some more comments here. Miss Shay, the stylist, says to her sister, "You ain't never lie." And then there's...
I'm going to bring her on that show about...
There you go. I'd like to... Also, there's She Alex saying That's right, Serena. I wasn't aware until my mom was stage 4.
Yes. Yes.
So also here, I'd like to thank Brett for coming on, The Queen Within, J Street 640, also on listening to the live audio stream. Thank you so much. I have a feeling I know who it is, but I'm not going to put it out there because I don't see their ID, but I have a strange feeling I know who it is, but that is another epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show. If you would like to watch replays of video conversations like this one, you're at the place. Just go to YouTube, go into the search engine and type in the space, DR period space, VIBE space, SHOW. If you want to listen to my epic audio conversations, you can go to my website, the drvibeshow.com, or you can go to Apple Podcast, you can go to Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Alexa.
Woo!
There you go. Selected audio replays are available at thegoodmenproject.com and WJMS Radio out of New York City. I'm a certified empowerment coach, president and CEO of Express Your Vibe Coaching Communications. If you'd like a complimentary session, would love to do that with you. You can contact me on Twitter at drvibeshow, email dr.vibeshow@the drvibeshow.com, or go to my website, drvibeshow.com. Go to the top, click on Connect with the Dr. Vibe Show, and you can connect with me via email, video message, or audio message right there. I also am a brand ambassador. Here we go with a food plug for the only online magazine dedicated to African Americans in food, wine, and travel. The name of the magazine is cuisinenoirmagazine.com. The website is cuisinenoirmag.com. If you are a business or an entrepreneur and you're looking for media promotion, I operate in a service called mediacoverage.com, where I help media businesses and entrepreneurs get media promotion so they can elevate their business, product, or service. I will also be in September speaking at the Truth Conference on September 8th in Niagara Falls, Ontario, and I will be emceeing on November 17th and 18th in Toronto the Men's and Women's Conference on Masculinity. If you want to find out more about either of those events I'll be at, go to my website. There are images there. You click on the image, it will take you right to the website. 3 last things I'd like to say. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Next up, sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. And finally, block assumptions.
Wow.
God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith. And where my heritage is from, we like to say walk good. Thanks again, everybody, for watching live on the replay. Have a great night. Be well.
Blessings.